It has always been part of my life, being the nature of a family business. For all I can recall, when I was as young as about 8, 9 years old, I was involved in some farm duties to be helping out with my uncles, my granduncles. So that formed integral part of my childhood. I think I always had that at the back of my mind, knowing that somewhere down the road I will return and work with the family.
Our speaker this evening is born into an extended Singapore family that has continued to live together under one roof for more than a century. And to share more about the Tans and their family business, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tan Yong Shao.
Thank you for having me today. I'm incredibly humbled and honored to be given the opportunity to make a little sharing today in a nice environment like this, the pod in National Library Board HQ. When I was first being invited and being informed to do a sharing, the first question was that this is the prominent speaker series, and I don't know, the only prominent part is my forehead, I think, and I couldn't really relate. But I think the focus is not particularly on me, but more about my family and a little bit of the history and the living arrangement that it has gone through. National Library Board and us, Mahota, this particular brand that we have started recently, has a very close tie. And it was almost exactly a year from now, a year ago, that we ran an event here. And I think it was the relationship that we got to know each other, and because we co-organized the event called Mahota Symposium. For this symposium, for this particular one that was done last year, that was the 7th edition of Mahota Symposium. And what we did was we focused on the topic called intentional communities. So, of course, the first question was that, what do you mean by intentional? Are there communities that are unintentional, for example? And so that was the entire starting point to engage with the attendees and the delegates. In preparation for this symposium, we flew to several countries. The nearest one would be Brisbane, Australia, Brisbane, where there is the oldest eco-village over there called Crystal Waters. We also flew over to Denmark, where near Copenhagen there are 3 eco-villages, Dusekele, Munsegard, and also Svanholm. And the one that is slightly more remote is the one that represents Egypt, and it's called Seichem. Thank you. So we went to these few eco-villages, and we wanted to invite them over, and we spoke to the pioneers, the founder of the eco-villages. They range from about 25 years to 40 years to date, since its founding. So I think they are very willing to share, because intended communities set themselves apart because they have a different way of life. It could be because of eco-consciousness. It could be due to the fact that they have a particular approach to nature. Perhaps they value arts and education much more than the mainstream society. So the intentional part is that special narrative that brings this group of people apart, to say that I will take over a farmland and maybe I will convert it to a different type of alternate living arrangement. So when we were there, it was quite humbling to know that all over the world they are doing things with great passion and drive. And I don't know how to drive the point across. Perhaps the most telling point was that to share with Singaporeans, even with the students and the adults here, they couldn't get the idea of trying to live differently from the mainstream society, because we are so encompassing. I think that perhaps Singapore doesn't even have room to be alternate. That was one of the conclusions that we drew from that particular symposium, that we couldn't see why someone wouldn't want to live with all the convenience of modernity and wants to try to incorporate agriculture into their life, for example, and have a large part of communal living arrangement as part of their daily existence. So that was the part why we wanted to have the theme of the symposium last year to be on intentional communities. And one of the main reasons why we could finally convince them to fly all the way to Singapore to talk to us, many of them were in their 70s and 80s. And they said, no, I'm done with my things. You know that I'm the pioneer of the community here, and the name has been out, and I have done my part. Now I just want to do my beekeeping and sell my bee waxes, for example. But we share with them the story of our family, and they were surprised to hear that in metropolis or in a very built-up city like Singapore, there is still room, as I mentioned, for an alternate lifestyle. So we were very fortunate and grateful that they were able to join us last year. And that was a very fruitful discussion that we had. And I believe that many of us left and with many learnings, at least if not an answer to what we could do, but at least questions that we never even think about before, to know that communities could potentially be different from what we are going after. This is not a revolutionary point of view. This is just to examine ourselves a little bit more, so that to acquire the knowledge and to know that what is missing in your life, perhaps there's something that you want to know a little bit more about later. Therefore, you will be able to achieve what you set out to do. So that part will come back again in full circle when I talk about my family. So that was Mahota Symposium that we do once a year. We are a bit late for what we behind schedule this year. We're still hoping to push one out before the end of the year. So fingers crossed, and hope that we could have a meaningful one. When I was being asked to do a bit of sharing, especially on my family, that was, it's a topic that is so familiar to you that it could be something that you probably don't have to think about. But obviously it's so close to me, so close to my heart and my very existence, that it makes it even, I think to the other extent, very, very difficult to talk about. So it's like my eyelids, where it is always there, but you don't, you can't really see it. And so my natural reaction is to nominate my wife, because we've been married for 3 years for now, and she's relatively new to the family, but probably would have acquired enough experience and have a objective, subjective view that she could perhaps shed some light about my family. But knowing my wife, I fear for the consequences if I were to do so, to nominate her, and it is of course out of self-preservation that I decided not to do it and undertake this process myself. Talking about a family is something that could be very mundane. I could tell you exactly how we set out, because what you see could be that, oh, you have 80 people living in the same house. You have one central kitchen that you share your daily meals with, and you have a common laundry. There is no ensuite bathroom. You have to walk out to the corridor before you get into the toilets. You share washing machines, and you have a common car park. And there's a lot of communal aspect to it. And I can go on about the setup of the family, but I don't think that would be the angle that truly matters. I hope, since this is the National Library, this is the NLB building, I take the liberty to veer off a little bit more into the, not the esoteric, but slightly more fundamental of why we do it, and how did it come about. So what is it about the Tan family that makes people question, oh, is it better than a nucleus family? I'm with my wife and my 2 children, and I live in a house or I live in a flat. Why do you need to be communal? Is it better? Is it worse? How do you compare to the mainstream society? Is it out of choice, or is it out of necessity that you have to engage in this particular type of living arrangement? So I think drawing back to the symposium last year, this was a picture that I took in Svanholm. Svanholm is one of the oldest eco-villages in Denmark. And it has very special, I would say, living arrangements. 80% of your salary has to be you have to contribute your 80% of your salary to a central bank account. There's about 200 people living there. They are much more communal than we are. They only about 30% of the residents there work at the farm, which is adjacent to their living quarters, and they produce. They have cattle. They produce milk. They do their annual gathering. The decision for the community has to be consensual. So based on not consensual. It has to be based on consensus. So, and this is a laborious process. However, I learned a lot, and perhaps this is one area that I could share. A lot of times when we come up with conflicts, it is because the decision-making process is dichotomous. It is binary. It's either you should have the cattle here further away from my house, or it should be nearer to your house, for example. And a lot of times we can't resolve a particular conflict. I'm talking about this in the most benign kind of conflict we could possibly think of. There are genocides going out there. There are a lot of social issues and even international disputes is happening exactly at this particular moment. So conflicts going out there, I think it is not because they are irresolvable, but whether there is a willingness to go back to the origination of the particular conflict. So for them, they started from the original question. They won't have to argue and quibble around whether the cattle farm has to be nearer to the residents, but we will smell the cows, or it has to be quite far away, and the people who has to work at the farm has to do a lot of walking to get there. So there is often the conflict of interest. But for them, they know that this will eventually come, so they would take it very slowly and very methodically. They would ask the first question, do you want extra income for the community? So this is a very benign question, a question that you could say, no, we wouldn't want extra income. We are perfectly fine how our living arrangements are, and that's fine. So they will put this problem aside. They probably address it next month. So they'll go for a little bit of a drink and banter, and that's it for the meeting this month. A month later, perhaps due to some economic crunch and issues, the issue might arise again, and they will ask the same question. Is it that we would require additional income for our community? So it will have to be a consensus, and if it goes through, the next question would be that, would you want to do financial investment, or would you want to be engaged in agricultural investment that will be on-site? So these are the binary decisions that are apparently at that particular time rather innocuous. It doesn't really affect anyone as of yet, and they will take the decision further and further down until they get to the point where would you prefer horses or cows? And then I was horses, we don't have enough space for horses. Cows are more domesticated, and we can sell, instead of milk, we can have ice creams and Yums, organic ice creams and stuff. So, and so since we want cows, and we want cows to be on-site, where would we want it? I think a lot of times where discussions at that very late stage of the discussion, we get into the issue that perhaps I wouldn't want it to be so near to my windows, this herd of cows. So I would say, hey, do we even want cows in the first place? And that would unravel the entire discussion. So the fact that there is consensus at every stage of the decision, I think that strengthens the community building. This is quite a dedicated example that I talked about, but because this is very not mainstream, this is very alternate. Not a lot of community or people make decisions like that, but they are very aware, they want full buy-in, and this is on one extreme scale of how communal living is. So this is one of the picture of the laundry space that they have. This is another angle. One of the reasons why I initially was reluctant to talk today was that I thought I didn't want to air dirty laundry in the public. And then I guess this is one of the most cathartic way to do it, by showing you physically the laundry of other people. But back to this, it was remarkable to see something like that, because the next picture would be our own laundry. This is all the way thousands of kilometers back in Singapore. This is our house, and we have a similar setting. Of course, we are not living on an eco farm or eco village, so things are more concretized, a little bit more structural. But the idea is the same, that when a lot of people stay together, there has to be some ways of drying your clothes, be it through the bamboo sticks out of your windows, or when we have the luxury of staying together collectively, we could have a collective space like that we can dry our clothes. So when I was there, when I took that photo, not because I'm really keen to know what kind of clothes they are wearing, but it's more about how we have similar arrangements, even small aspects of that, as mundane and banal as drying clothes. Thousands and thousands of kilometers away. This is halfway around the globe. That's Svan Hom Got, and this is where we are at the National Library. It would take about 100, slightly more than 100 days to walk. Of course, we don't walk, but this is a clearer picture. I think this is